Mr. Zagunis, we are live.
Okay.
How is everybody doing? We'll give everybody a little bit of time to click onto either our YouTube page or our Facebook page, but we're live now. Looks like we've got some people coming in. So Sheila's here. She's always the first person on these. Randy, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on time. We'll probably give 1 or 2 minutes for other people to hop on, and then we'll get going. But I'm super excited to have everybody here. We've got Jack Zagunis going to talk about how to evaluate your pre-foreclosure list, the steps he goes through, and how he coaches our customers to go through when we're evaluating a pre-foreclosure list for either just evaluating a property, or buying a property before the auction, or even just going and buying properties at the auction. So thanks for joining us today, Jack. It's been a month since we've done a webinar with you.
1 month exactly to this day.
To this day, wow, we timed it or something. Awesome. It looks like we've got some people on. Jen, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. Looks like most of the people are for YouTube or Facebook. So awesome. Well, Jack, do you want to go ahead and get started? We can start diving into this.
Yeah. Could you please share my screen?
For you, I will. Awesome, guys. Well, I'll just kind of start off. I'm Curtis Roddy, COO of Roddy's Foreclosure Listing Service. I've been in foreclosures since I was in diapers. My dad started the company back in the 1960s. Since then, we've been heavily involved in pre-foreclosure data, really real estate data across the state, and so heavily involved in that and buying foreclosures and all sorts of real estate investments. So, and today with us, we've got a familiar face and probably a familiar voice to a lot of our customers. We've got Jack Zagunis.
Yeah.
Jack.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and I have a passion for real estate. I have a passion for this business. I have a passion for people taking control of their futures and able to stop working, the 9 to 5s, to start retiring early, start leaving something for their children. And so when I get to talk to new investors or even investors who are thinking about leaving their jobs for this full time, I do get really excited because this can give you all the freedom you want if you're able to work hard and do it right. So
that's awesome. Well, that could be a tagline, Jack. I think you get really excited for people wanting to learn. And Aaron, I was talking to Aaron the other day, and he was saying that a lot of people are really excited right now because they don't want to miss the upcoming opportunity. With we've got this crisis will create an opportunity, and we think that's going to be coming up in the next couple of months. And so we're glad everybody's here to learn and kind of get ready for this what we think is going to be upcoming swell of foreclosure postings. So Jack, I'll let you kind of take it away and start talking about what you do and how you coach our customers on and members on how to use their pre-foreclosure list.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen right here and my mouse going through it. If you can see it, Sheila, I know you'll help us out by saying yes, and we'll move through that. I'm sure we'll get something on there soon. Okay, so when you get the list, if you're a member of Roddy's, you get 24/7 access to the list. We do recommend checking the list once a week. We used to do it, say, maybe twice a month, but that's sort of changed now that we have live updates, which we'll talk about later. There is one time during the month when the list is complete. There's going to be no new properties added, and that's about 20 days before the auction if you're in a major county, and if you're in a smaller county, that is about 18 to 19 days before the auction. So when you come to the website, this is what it looks like now. One of the biggest questions we've had on our forum, if you come over here, you'll see that we have a forum. If you click that, this will open up. And the number one question we've had is, I paid, where is my list? So we're going to quickly talk about how to get the list.
Hey, Jack, let me jump in real quick. We've got something brand new. The website's changed a little bit, right? In the last 2 days ago, we changed the layout of the website. We think it's a little bit simpler, but we've had some customers asking, just like, where did, it used to be in the top toolbar. We used to have a lot of the buttons. Where did all that stuff go?
Sure. If you're looking at your computer, up in the top left, there's what they call a hamburger menu, which I learned what it was called when we put it in there. And you click it, and that will pop open different options here. What I'm going to start by doing is just logging in, and I already have an account here, so I'm just going to log in, and now I have access. So on the side here, the first thing I would do when you first get this and you're not sure if your county is complete is I would click this resources button here. It'll pop down. The very first one is called pre-foreclosure research status. If you open that, it'll pop open a map. And if your county is green, that means the research is complete. And you can pull the list knowing that another property will not be added that month, and you will not miss anything.
And I'll say one little caveat is sometimes like we work really closely with the counties and different trustees. For example, in Dallas County this month, 7 days after the deadline, a posting came in that they filed on their website. We don't think it could actually legally go to auction, but the county clerk sent us an email and said, "Hey, this came in late. Can you guys put it on your list?" So we did put it on our list. We always put a disclaimer on the list if it comes in late. So I think on that one we said, "Hey, this came in on May 23rd." And it's posted for the June auction. So there's on the rare occasion we'll add one or two properties, but typically if something comes in on our list after the deadline, it means it was filed late.
Great. Yeah, great. And then that could be, we don't want to withhold any information from you at all. So we'll put that on there and we'll disclose everything. But if we call it green, it is done. If something like that happens, that's going to be extremely rare. So check this out before you do it. Today, I'm thinking about picking Lubbock as a county that I want to do more research in for this webinar especially. I think Lubbock is a good area. It's a college town. I think it's up and coming. I think it has a lot of promise for foreclosures and as far as fix and flips and rental values. And so today I kind of picked that as the sample county that we're going to go through and find a few great properties to immediately start driving. So you click on the hamburger menu on the left side and you're going to click products, and then you're going to click our products, and then you're going to click the live foreclosure auctions. Before I do that, oh, go ahead, Mr. Ruddy. Yeah. These are the different lists that we have. The live foreclosure auctions are many different lists. This sheriff's list here, these are the tax foreclosures, people who are losing their homes due to taxes. And they are done by the sheriff with a gun and a badge, the constable. So
yeah, so it's hard to miss the sheriff's auction. Typically, you can miss a trustee at the mortgage auction. That's why we've got teams at every auction, but it's very hard to miss the sheriff's auction. Now, I will say that sometimes the sheriff's auction is going to be held separately from the mortgage auction, and a lot of people don't know that. So if you have a question about where the auction is going to be held, make sure to send us a chat. Jack, can you show on the bottom right-hand corner where the chat icon is?
This is the chat icon here.
Yep. So Jack or Paul or myself will always be monitoring this. And so if you have a question, it doesn't have to be about our product, it can just be about foreclosures in general. Shoot us that question, and we'll try to answer it as quickly as possible. So again, sheriffs, like Jack said, the guy selling the stuff, the sheriffs or the tax liens is going to be the guy with the gun and badge. I'll also say that this month it seems like counties are starting to try to separate the sheriff sales. And so like when we spoke with the Tarrant County clerk and commissioners, our team actually found out that they are going to separate where the sale happens. So typically, like in Tarrant County, the sales used to be right next to each other. It was really crowded. With the kind of the COVID and social distancing going on, Tarrant County said, "Hey, we're gonna hold the sale this month, and we're going to allow people to gather on the lawn, but we're going to try to distance people a little bit more." So, this month it might be a little bit different. The exciting thing is counties are starting to have their tax sales, which the last 3 months there hasn't been any. Sorry, I cut you off there, Jack, but
no, that's great information to have, especially if you're watching it live, so that you know exactly what's going to happen here in about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the post-bankruptcy alert. And just very briefly, these are people who have lost their bankruptcy protection, and now they are generally getting contacted by many collectors. And we find that likely to add it to the foreclosure list in 90 days, as it says right here. So if you
Yeah.
want to, go ahead.
So typically, like somebody coming at like that shows up on our post bankruptcy list, they're going to be people that they were a lot of times somebody is posted for foreclosure that first time, and they're like, hey, how do I stop the foreclosure process? They declare bankruptcy. Our system allows, and so once they declare bankruptcy, it kind of gives them a stay on that foreclosure. What we're tracking is they've gone into bankruptcy. The post bankruptcy means that the court or the bankruptcy trustee has actually filed for that particular property or individual to lose their bankruptcy protection, and so now they don't have that stay of foreclosure. So typically, when that happens, you've got between 30 and 180 days for them to show up on our pre-foreclosure list. A lot of people will use this post-bankruptcy alert list to, there's a lot of different auxiliary ways that they'll use it, but as a real estate investor, you'll try to buy that property before it actually gets posted. It gives you the opportunity to buy it conventionally with a conventional financing. Also, it takes that 20-day window out, and you can inspect it. You can usually walk the property, and then, or if you're trying to buy it subject to, the post bankruptcy list is a great lead list for you.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And think about it this way: there's a curve that happens. This is like the start of the curve, and then it goes up. And at the start of the curve, there's low motivation and there's low reasons to sell. These are people who maybe have some equity in the property and there's not much going on. And then you get kind of to people who are having some problems. And these are like the post-bankruptcy people. Maybe they have liens on their property that are given to them. And then the very end of the curve is they're going into foreclosure, the pre-foreclosure list. So once they hit that point, they've already had some problems kind of going up. If you're only hitting people at the pre-foreclosure list, you're going to have a harder time because there's some people that are going to these people earlier, like a post-bankruptcy situation, and developing a relationship with them. So when they do get really time to sell and they're actually in bankrupt or they're actually in foreclosure, they're going to think of those people first. Oftentimes too, if they're not paying their mortgage, they're not paying other things, like maybe they're not paying their cell phone bills, they're not answering the doors at these point. So it is harder to get a hold of them as it would be when they're earlier on in the process.
That's a really great point, Jack, because as people get further along in that process, the number of contacts and touches, with that curve really just, be a great correlation as that curve slope increases, the number of people trying to reach out to them increases as well. The post-bankruptcy list is also a great idea for real estate agents, right? Like typically you're not able to get a property listed, sold, or under contract and sold in 20 days. Or say if you're using our early postings, 50 days. There's a tight deadline, but the post-bankruptcy alert list is going to give you a really long runway to get that done and do that with conventional financing. So I know we didn't advertise this as a post-bankruptcy alert list webinar. So let's get back to the pre-foreclosure list. I could go on for another 2 or 3 hours about this.
Yeah, we're going to talk about these another time. If you want to know more about vacant home leads, probate leads, or likely to sell leads, you can email me, jack@flsonline.com, jack@flsonline.com, or put it in the comments that you want to know more about one of those, and I'll get with you after this. Okay, so again, we went to products, and then we went to our products, and then we went to, and now we're going to go to live foreclosure auctions. And we're going to go to the pre-foreclosure list.
And I guess real quick, just to point out, the pre-foreclosure list and the pre-foreclosure data are going to be the same list. The pre-foreclosure data is for people that just want our list in a PDF or Excel format, and they just want to download it real quick. If you click on data, and then you click on the Excel, it'll instantly download that Excel or PDF file for your county. It doesn't give you the ability to filter that. So a lot of times people are like, what's the difference? They're both the same. They're both included with your subscription to each county. So just so that everybody knows what you're getting with that.
And if you purchase the commercial list, this is also where you'll find the whole commercial list. That's
Correct.
A quick download.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna go to the pre-foreclosure list. And now once you're here, this is a foreclosure report search. Probably looks a little different than when you were on last time. And the first thing I'm going to do is select the county I'm interested in. And so you can actually start typing it here if you have a bunch, but you can select Lubbock. you can select which month you want now. So we got rid of the early postings button and you can pick which month. June is coming up here soon, so I'm going to pick June, but I looked ahead of time. There are 4 postings in July and 1 in August already on the Lubbock list. I won't click on those to show you what they are, just to kind of give the people who own the Lubbock list some respect and let them go after those. But if you do sign up for it, you would have access to those.
And I'll just to on those early postings, it used to just be that we only offered that for the upcoming month, and it was, we'd offer it 14 days before the auction started, or we turn those on. Now, as we get postings, in Tarrant County, for example, we have stuff for September, right? So our research team is, as we get postings, they're going into our system and you can access them. We just started doing that about a week ago, so something we're really excited to add that, give to our customers to add value to your subscriptions.
Great. All right. And we're going to get right into this button here, search. And then once you hit search, you have what looks like kind of a dumbed down list, but that's not the whole list. You click view all. Okay. So when we get the list every month, what we did when I was doing this stuff full time is the first thing that I would look at, there's so many different boxes here, and we're not going to go over all of these today and what all the abbreviations mean. If you want abbreviations, please email me, jack@flsonline.com, or you can put in the comments, abbreviations or ABBV, and after this, I will look at those and I will send them out to you through email, as long as we have your email in our system. So the very first thing I always looked at when I was doing this was the loan, when the loan was taken out. And I really paid a lot of attention to this. So if you're looking at when the loan was taken out, obviously the older loan, the better, because there's going to be more equity in the property. And if it's a brand new loan, like a brand new FHA loan that was taken out last year, well, there's probably going to be not enough equity for you to do anything to help them. So I would usually just completely cut those out on my first run through the list.
Now, are you doing that to buy properties before the auction or at the auction? Or are you just saying that's in general, that's your rule of thumb, like that's how you rule stuff out? Is there a way that somebody can use, like, let's just say, I had a house and I took out a mortgage in 2018. Is there a way somebody can, try to make a deal with something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if they took a loan out in 2018 and it was a VA or an FHA loan, meaning they put 0 or 3.5% down, and they're in a neighborhood or an area that doesn't appreciate well, like Bell County and maybe even Lubbock County, no, there's nothing you can do for them really. There's maybe some options, but probably not. They probably owe about or more than the home is worth at this point. Now, if you're in Austin or someplace that's appreciating like crazy, there's a possibility that you could do something there. So you want to look at this. Now, if they took out a loan like a conventional loan and they put down 20%, then yeah, they already had 20% in when they bought it. And so there's room there. So you also want to look at this right here. So what we have here is a 2015 loan, and it's an FHA loan. So I know that in 2015, they probably only put 3.5% down. And this number right here is what they borrowed, $181,649. I also know, because it's an FHA, that it went through a higher scrutiny and VA2 as far as inspection process goes. And so in 2015, 5 years ago, when we're filming this, that home passed an FHA inspection. So odds are it's probably not the worst house in the world. There's probably, it's probably in decent shape. I mean, of course, a lot can happen in 5 years, but it recently, I would say in the last 5 years, passed that inspection. And I'm gonna go after this house. I think that this house is a good one to go after. You'll notice this line here says $0 unpaid balance. It doesn't mean that they paid this loan off all the way. Some of you might be rolling your eyes, but some of you are like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Unpaid balance just means that we weren't able to amortize that loan and figure out what is owed. But if they were making payments from 2015 till now, they've been making payments for 5 years, they probably paid that down a little bit. Most of it was probably interest, but they probably paid it down a little bit. If you go over here to the other side, you can see that the tax value of this home is $230,000. And I checked it earlier just to verify that we're getting the right tax value, and we are, but you can always check it in the CAD value. And so that is the tax value of the property. So either they bought this property really smart, or this particular area has undergone some good appreciation in the last 5 years. Meaning that they probably bought it for full retail price, and they probably paid $195 for it, and now it's already worth $230 according to the tax value.
Yeah, I mean, typically a good rule of thumb that, or at least what we use in our more rural areas, that like properties are going to appreciate about 2 to 3% a year. Now, like in Austin or Dallas and kind of the hot areas, obviously that number, it could be 3%, it could be 15%. We don't know, but good rule of thumb that we use for appreciation is going to be 2 to 3%.
So starting with this column here, I know I like this already. It's not the best in the world, but there's definitely going to be some equity there if they took that out in 2015. Now, when I used to do this in 2013, I would give more attention to a loan taken out in 2012 than one taken out in 2008. So you also have to know what's going on, because a loan in 2008 is probably still underwater in 2013, whereas a loan taken out in 2012, they probably got a steal on it, got it for a really good deal. So you don't just want to say, oh, the older the better. You also have to kind of know what's been going on in the history of these loans. So now that I've looked at this and I say, okay, and I've looked at this and I say, okay, they took out a $181,000 loan. I look at this over here, and this is just a good general guideline. If this said, $160,000, I'm like, okay, I'm probably not interested anymore, but it says $230. So now I'm moving through the lines. The next thing I'll start to look at is a little more of the details of it. So this says it has 2,355 square feet. It's got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. It does say it has 0 garages, but if you look through here, all of them are 0. So that may just mean that we weren't able to pull in the garages when we did this research. So always good to check it out, because a no-car garage house will definitely sell for less than a 2 or a 1 or a 3-car garage. And then this P right here means there's a pool. So one thing I know about pools when you do a flip is they're kind of expensive, because probably they were letting the pool maintenance slip as they were losing this property. And there's probably going to be, you would have to guess, like a $7,000 to $10,000 pool liner and other parts that you're going to have to replace. So you may want to stay away from pools. You may like pools because they have good resale value sometimes. Sometimes they don't. So it's kind of like if the buyer likes it. Now, this is the person, if you go knock on this door, this is the person who you'll be looking for, Michelle. And this et al., what that means is, I think it's Latin, but it just means and spouse, so, or and husband or and partner or whatever. So there's 2 people that own this property, not just one. That's what you see when you see that. And then if you go all the way to the right and you want a little picture of it, you can click on the Zillow icon, and it'll show you a photo of the property from what they have on Zillow. As you can see, the Zestimate here is even higher than the tax value at $252. But you never really want to trust this estimate, and you never really want to trust the tax value. The only way you can really trust of what a property is worth is to find homes that are similar to it that have sold in the area in the last 6 months. Now this also has the old listing information from 2015. So it's got some interesting information you could read here. It's really, really helpful. As you can see from the photo, it does indeed have a 2-car garage. So this is a really great property to put on your list to go door knock, or to go at the foreclosure sale and try to purchase. It just looks like a solid home. It looks like it would rent out relatively easy, and it looks like it's just kind of the home that everybody wants. Medium price, looks like a good property. As you look through here, you can see some old price history just to make sure. You might want to check that to see if it's currently on the market. Doesn't mean you can't buy it at foreclosure even if it's on the market. It just means you might want to know. This is not 100% accurate on Zillow. You may need to contact a local realtor to figure out all the details of it. But as you can see, the last listing information was from 2015 for $185,000, and then it was removed. So you have to think that that was the last deal. So that one is one that I would target. I would circle that one. I highlight that. That normally only takes a few seconds going through all those steps and figuring out if it's one you want or it's one you don't want. But we kind of went slowly through it today. If you have any questions about how to look at that, throw that in the comments there, and we'll cover those. There's one more comment here down here. It says 252 square feet were added in 1990. That's great. I'd want to know that if it has added square footage, and if it's on the CAD, that means that it's being taxed properly and that it was done likely, with a license and everything was fine on that. 252 makes me think that if it was a one-car garage, it might have had a converted garage, but we saw in the photos it doesn't. But converted garages typically don't sell as well price per square foot as something else. So a lot of details to look through here, but really if you just start here with the 2015 loan, and then you look here and you see what the loan was originally for, and then you see here and see what the tax value or what the probable value is of the property, you can know, hey, this is a property I want to look further into. And let's just look at two other ones, not super fast, but just to show. Again, this next one down here, you have a 2014 loan. So already it's looking good. It's got a home equity. It's a home equity loan. And the loan was for $50,000. Down here.
So we've got a house that it looks like we've got a house with a $50,000 loan that worth $150,000 according to the tax value.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, typically when you see that home equity lien, it's going to be a red flag. But Jack, it looks like it says that this was a first lien, right? So we've looked at the deed of trust on this property, and it said on that deed of trust it actually says first lien.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always an exciting thing.
If I'm door knocking this property and I don't see this last part, this deed of trust shows first lien, I'm still going to door knock this property because this guy, he was able to take out a home equity loan at one point. His home, because of the dates, it's appreciated since then. So he's still got some equity probably, and he still wants to sell. If I'm buying this at auction, this is the loan I'm buying. So I want to be really sure there's no loans above me in the chain of title. One way you can get a title search done when you get to the further along in the process is you can go to roddytitle.com. roddytitle.com, you enter your information there, and they'll get you the full title search of the property. If you're buying it before the courthouse, you don't need to do that so much because you're going to be taking it to a title company and closing at a title company, and they're going to do the title search for you.
But you do also, before you make an offer and go through all that work of like going through the title process, you probably want to have a good idea of whether or not this is a first lien or there is a senior lien to this, right? Like you don't want to get all the way to closing day and like, hey, the title company says, nope, never mind, we couldn't clear title.
Yeah, no, good point. I think that every time you do a deal, they always end up different. And that hasn't happened to me yet, or they haven't cleared title for different reasons, but not because I didn't know about all the loans in the property. But once you do one and that happens and you get burned right at the end, then you definitely change your. So I'm guessing that might have happened to you at one point, and so that's why you do that.
Recently.
Yeah. Okay. So.
But we were okay. We were okay. We actually had a title policy, so it was the title company's issue.
So I like this one. It does say deed of trust shows first lien, so you have a good chance of buying that at the auction too and doing well. I want to find one more. And I want to find one that actually has a little more information. So this one right here, number 3 on our list, is a property that you can see was taken out in 2017. Ooh, that's pretty recently. And I see it's a VA loan. So VA loan, they can put down any amount they want to and use their VA benefit, but likely they're going to put 0 down because that's the minimum, and they want to keep as much cash as possible. So I'm assuming they put $0 down. So they bought this property in 2017. We're going to look again right over here. We have $183,000 of the loan that they got. And right now the current tax value is $186,000. So not much room there. We even put this in a little, we said there's 4% equity in the property, and there's a spread, meaning equity spread of $7,489. So that's what these numbers mean over here. Now, why am I not just passing right over this property? Because there's not enough equity in it. Well, 2 things. One, you can see here, it says canceled. This is a feature that we have now that we know from the trustee that this property is not going to go to auction. And so if you're going to bid this on the courthouse steps, you don't need to write this one down. It won't be there. Does that mean it's just going to get added to next month? Maybe not necessarily. They're going to have to refile that for foreclosure if they're going to do it at a later time, and it'll be on a later list of ours if it's going to be on a later month. But if it's a canceled property with little to no equity, there's still some things you can do with this property if the homeowner wants you to. Over here on the right side, you can see that we know their monthly mortgage payment is $881. That's what that number is right there. And again, we can go over this later. If you email me, I'll help you out. And right here, we know their interest rate is 4.03. So VA loans are assumable. There's also transactions called subject tos, where you can buy the property subject to the existing financing that's in place. So if you have a conversation with this homeowner and you say, hey, I just want to see what I want to sit down with you and find out what your options are. Maybe we can help. And you talk to them and they say, yes, this house has become a burden. It would give me a lot of peace of mind to sell this property. You can offer them a couple things, whatever your exit strategy is. Now, I'm not going to get into how to do subject twos. That's like a multi-day course that a lot of people teach, and it can be very complex. But
I'll interject. We'll be talking about that at the Roddy Summit. I don't think we've talked about that yet, but we're going to have next week, June 3rd and 4th. I believe it's the 3rd and 4th or the 4th and 5th. If you go to roddysummit.com, you can actually register for that. That's going to be a free 2-day training, a live 2-day training event where we go through everything from just like what the market's like right now, all the way through, looking at pre-foreclosure lists, how to comp properties, how to do your own title, how to drive properties, and we'll also be talking about subject to. So if you go to roddysummit.com, you can pre-register for it. It's free right now. It's not going to be free after the summit's over.
Great. Yeah, roddytitle.com. Let's get that put in the comments there. And the other website we said was, roddytitle.com and roddysummit.com. So both of those are two websites we've listed. The third website I want you all to know about is called padhawk.com. There's 3 ways to get valuations of properties, and that's padhawk.com. One way is to ask a realtor to get you a comparative market analysis. The second way is to use a service like Padhawk that has data from the MLS. And then the third way is to basically you can kind of poke around on Zillow and other free sites, and there's you can kind of get a general idea of what something might be worth based on other homes that have been on the market or sold. You can kind of poke around. It's a little harder and less accurate. On a deal like this one right here, number 3, if you're threading the needle, you want to get a really good idea of resale. If this home is worth 176, or if this home is worth 196, you'll want to know that. So that's one reason you can use Padhawk. Also, if you look on Padhawk and you see some recent properties that have sold, a lot of them will have a little camera icon. You click on that, you can see what the photos look like. So the neighbor down the street, they put carpet and paint in their house. The other neighbor put carpet and paint. The other neighbor put carpet and paint. All I have to do is carpet and paint. But if you look and you say, okay, well, everyone's putting granite, they're tearing down walls, they're doing, or they're all tear downs and build ups, you'll want to know that before you go into it. This house, you may not have to do anything because as you can see right here on this line, which I didn't even bring up, it's built in 2017. So they probably, as long as they're changing out their air filters, have a almost perfectly great house.
Yeah, we actually just bought and sold a property that was built in 2017 in North Texas, and went in there, just did some touch-up paint. Carpet was in great shape. Appliances were all there. So it was so because that that 2017 date or year of construction, we felt really confident that we'd have a low construction budget for that. I think Jack, what kind of rule of thumb do you use for construction?
So if it's 10 years or less old and you can't see the inside of it because you're buying it on the courthouse steps, you're probably going to want to say paint carpet it, and it's probably going to run you about $7 a square foot, $6 to $8 a square foot. If it's 10 to say 20 years old, in Texas, the weather's really rough on houses. The roof could be going at that point. The AC could be going at that point. And the water heater could be going. The systems could be failing. So you're probably looking at $10 to $13 a square foot, plus the paint and carpet, or not plus, including the paint and carpet. Yeah. And then if you start getting older homes like 30 years or older, or say 40 years or older, you might be up to like $40 a square foot. Or sorry, $30 a square foot, because you'll be thinking like, okay, maybe there's some wiring that needs to be replaced and things like that, foundation damage at this point. So you can find out a lot by just driving by it, kind of taking an eye on it. looking at it. You can also look at the comps in the neighborhood. If the comps in the neighborhood say a lifetime foundation warranty, included, okay, well, the house down the street didn't have good foundation, so maybe that's kind of a neighborhood problem. Maybe this one doesn't. So those are kind of the general guidelines. 99% of the time, you're going to guess what the repairs are, and you're going to be pretty spot on. 1% of the time, you're going to walk into the house, it's going to be gorgeous, and you're not going to have to do a single thing after you buy it at auction. And then like another small percentage of the time, you're going to walk into the property, it's going to be 100 times worse than you ever thought it was going to be. But most of the time, it's going to be exactly what you think. I hope so anyway. Okay, so we've got 3 properties. As you can see, I could do this really fast. This 2017 VA, that's a little bit more complicated one. But this is a 2005 loan, great loan, conventional loan here, a 95 loan. This person is so sad. I mean, they got a $25,000 loan 25 years ago, and it completely gets paid off in 5 years from now, and they're going into foreclosure. So,
hey Jack, real quick, Tate's
yeah.
asking for us to repeat that, the kind of what guidelines we're using there for that. So we're using, if something's 10 years or less, you're saying $6 to $8 a square feet or a square foot, and then after that, it really increases exponentially after that. What was it after 10 years? Are you saying $10 to $12 a square foot?
Yeah, I would say 10 to 12 after 10 years, or 10 to 20 years, and then 20 to 30 years, you're probably more at $20 a square foot. And then, you could probably just estimate $30 a square foot at, 40 years or more.
Awesome. All right. And if anybody ever has a question just on those like guidelines like that, again, you can either put them in the comments on the Facebook or YouTube videos, and we'll be sure to answer those as they come in. Or again, we've got the chat in the bottom right hand corner of all of our screens. So you can always ask us from our website. Sorry.
So, yeah, you can quickly do this. I did this very fast. I mean, I would be eager to get out the door, to start having conversations with people to see if I can help them. So I wanted to get this list, and I wanted to get out the door right away. I wanted to be one of the first people to knock on their doors and to see, how we can help. When you're knocking on their door, we highly recommend you do both. Try to buy before the auction and at the auction, because when you're knocking on the door, all of a sudden you hear 6 dogs coming out the door. The owner might not be home. But if you're going to buy that at the auction, you found, okay, they have 6 dogs in that property. Like, I'm glad I found that out. I wouldn't have known that by looking at it. I love dogs, but they probably, did some damage to the flooring and the trim at the very least. So you'll find that out by knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell. And, best case scenario, you knock on the door, you have a nice conversation with the homeowner, you make out a deal to save their home from foreclosure. The bank doesn't have a foreclosure on their record. You get a property at a deal, and the homeowner doesn't have a foreclosure on his record. Sorry, the bank doesn't have a foreclosed property on their
books.
Thank you. I'm thinking of REO department. So anyway, it's a win-win-win if you can buy before the court sale. But even if you don't, you really should be seeing these houses that you're thinking about spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on before. So last thing I want to do is just to show you guys a system I use. There's a lot of systems out there to drive these properties. I want to be able to go from one point to the next very quickly. And so one system that I found, there's a lot out there, is Route XL. This is not one of our products, but if I'm going to say Lubbock, Texas.
And Jack, while you're setting that up, I'll also mention that if you go to padhawk.com, a lot of our members only want to buy vacant houses, or that's what they concentrate on. Padhawk.com, if you go there, you'll actually see whether or not it's been flagged as a vacant or occupied house. So again, if you're just looking for vacant properties, that's a great way to narrow down your list. If you don't care whether or not it's vacant or not, then probably not a whole lot of value there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also a great way to decide, help determine whether or not or what your construction budget is going to be, right? So you have a vacant house. Typically, that means the REO department from the bank or somebody like that has gone in there and winterized it and cleaned it up a little bit. That's going to help you out when you're doing your flip. So just keep that in mind when you're coming up with that construction budget.
And lastly, about Padhawk too, is you can actually look up that property on Padhawk, not just the comps, and you can do a quick abstract of title. You can find out if this property maybe has any big red flags that you need to know about before approaching.
All right, Jack, we got a question from Randy about what your best opening line is when you knock on the door. Jack, you've got a ton of experience on this. What would you recommend?
Yeah, gosh, there's two ways of going about it. There's the 100% honest way. Be like, hey, my name is Jack. I work with such and such company. I noticed your property is on the notice of election and demand. It's probably a mistake, and if it is, I'm sorry. But if it isn't, do you have a couple minutes to talk? So just straight up, what's going on? Or you could say NED list, just in case kids are around and they're like listening. Not that they would notice what a notice of election demand is. I've heard of people that they have a notebook with them that kind of says like foreclosure list on it. And then they kind of point to it. So it's a little bit more like, hey, it's between you and me. The other school of thought is just to knock on the door and just pretend like you're knocking all the doors in the area, just looking for homes to buy. Hey, my partner and I are looking for homes to buy. Do you know of anyone in the neighborhood who might consider selling in the next 3 months? We pay cash. It's easy transaction. You don't have to pay any closing costs, and we can close in as little as 5 days. You just kind of make it like you just randomly knocked on their door.
Yeah.
So those are the two ways of going about it. I've heard people have success with both ways. So
we actually did a webinar, Randy. We actually did a webinar a couple of weeks ago, or actually a month ago today, with Jack, where we actually talked about this. So we talked about getting people on the phone, getting and what to do, and kind of when you set that appointment to go tour the house. So I'll put a link in the comments below to that webinar. But again, if you guys have questions about this, a lot of stuff we've done in webinars previously. So go to our Facebook or YouTube pages and look for those trainings.
And before I jump off this page, does anybody have any questions that before this is your list. This is what, you come to you trust all the accurate data, all the data is accurate. You trust that we're not missing a single property. And so this is what you're getting. You're getting 100% of the foreclosures for that county, and you're getting all of these lines of data on here. In fact, there's one more thing that you can know about too, is this little icon right here. If you click that, it's the owner's address. And so if the owner lives in a different property, it'll pop up right here. So he lives in this house. So we know that. But if you're going to go door knocking, you may not want to knock on the door of a tenant. You may want to knock on his actual home.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a good list. Sorry, saw me grab a fly. Now, if no one has any other questions here, I'll move on. I'm just going to, what's cool about Route XL is you can just hit the import button, and instead of doing it one at a time, you can upload entire Excel files. It'll do up to 20 at a time. So let's grab those 3 that we liked. 2 and 3. And I've talked to a lot of people who they want to get out there right away. They want to start making calls. They want to start knocking on doors just to get rid of the fear of doing it. And this is the best way to do it. It's just to get out there. First day you get the list, go to 5 properties. Just get it done. Go, after work, go on the weekend, whatever you have to do to get it done. So as you can see, it mapped out these properties, and it would be more impressive if there's 20 on here. But all you have to do is just say find route, and it'll find the fastest route between your starting location and these properties. And then you can send it to yourself. You can share it. And once you get it in your email, it'll map out each one, and you can do directions to each one. So you can say start to this 2 address, or this 1 address, or this 3 address, and it'll all be separate. So it makes everything really fast. And yeah, that's what I would do the very first day you get the list. That whole thing, and including large lists, should take you 40 minutes tops. If you feel like, hey, there's a lot of foreclosures. Let's say there's 500 foreclosures this month. You definitely want to start with some of our filter options, and maybe say, I'm a wholesaler. I know my buyers only buy things built 1970 and newer. And they're not going to buy anything that's, just land. They're not going to buy anything that's $1 million property. So you can put all those filters in here, and then you can have a much smaller list to start with before you start going through and fine tuning each one.
Awesome. And we've talked, we always refer back to the 5 steps, right? We say there's 5 steps to buying your first or your next investment property. We talked a lot about today, getting your list, evaluating the list, driving by and looking at the properties. We didn't so much go over the steps 3, 4, and 5 is research title and the liens. Again, you can go to roddytitle.com, but really the exciting part of that is that we've got this summit coming up next week. You can go to roddysummit.com to register for that. And we're going to tell you how you can, if you don't want to go to roddytitle.com, we're going to tell you how to do your own title search. We're going to tell you how to do your own, how we do our drive-bys. I don't know if that's the right term, drive-bys. How we drive by properties and how we do our initial inspections. So go ahead and register for that. Can we Jack, talk a little bit about like how, what the next step is, right? You've cleared title, the property's in decent condition. You've come up with your construction budget. I think the next step, step 4 is coming up with that max bid or that offer price. What do you do for that?
Yeah, so I have a lot of people ask me, okay, it looks like they owe $30,000 on this property, for example, and the property is worth $200,000. So they're going to knock on the door and offer the person $30,000. I maybe that would work out. I don't know if that really would or not. And I think it's a little unfair to the homeowner if they do accept that, because that's a huge haircut from what they probably could get just on the open market. But my general rule of thumb is, you first find, not rule of thumb, just the way I organize it is you start with what the property is worth, and then you're going to minus your closing costs of what it's going to cost you to acquire it and sell it. And then you're going to minus any profit you want to make, and then you're going to minus any construction that you have to do. And that's going to be your max bid. So say all those numbers together are 30,000. The house is worth 100,000, so you would offer them 70,000. Now you may want to start that offer at 55, 56, knowing that you can come up to 70, just because people like to negotiate and they like to barter. But I don't make an offer based on what somebody owes. Now let's say on that same property, I notice because they haven't had the loan for very long, they owe 80,000 and my max bid is 70. That is a good time to just not even start working on that property unless you're doing subject twos or some other creative financing technique. So all that being said is the only way I would look at what somebody owes versus what my offer is going to be is if they owe more than my offer, and then I just have to bow out because there's nothing I can do to help them.
Yeah, that's a good point. That helps. Again, we're trying to be efficient with our time. A lot of people have multiple lists. You'll start with, say, 1,000 leads. You want to get down to 10 or 20 leads if you're going to buy something at the auction. So I've put up just a really informal slide of kind of what to take into account when you're coming up with your max offer price. A lot of times, like you'll say, hey, it's going to be the ARV minus construction minus your profit. It's not as simple as that. And just wanted to make sure we pointed out, like, there are acquisition costs. Now, one of the benefits of buying something at the auction is you don't have to go through closing, but if you buy something prior to closing or prior to the auction, you do need to close. So you're going to have lender's fees, lender's points, appraisals. If you're buying it, typically you're not going to pay a survey, but maybe that's what you have to do because the homeowner is not able to pay for that survey. Closing expenses, you've got another, say 2% there. So that's, on the acquisition side. Obviously your construction budget is really important there. So like Jack said, around $7 a square foot for a house that's 10 years old or less. Holding costs and taxes. You'll get to that. You'll get that HUD statement when you're done flipping and you see, oh no, I forgot about the taxes. I didn't take that into account when I was coming up with my max offer price. Make sure you take into account taxes. The loan interest, you've got financing costs or these holding costs associated with it. One thing that's snuck up on me on a couple of times is I didn't realize it was in a mud, right? So that mud, especially in these more rural areas, that could add, 1% on, I know in Kaufman County, there's a mud out there that's 1% extra tax per year. So make sure you know that. That also could affect what you can sell the house for. Obviously after that, then you've got utilities and insurance. Again, so now when you get to the point where you're closing, you got commission for a real estate agent. Sometimes you don't always have to do that. Title expenses. So that all kind of goes into it. So we say when we're doing it, we're saying, hey, what do we think we can sell the house for? What are our costs? All of the costs that go into that. And then what profit do we need to make? So in this example, I said 12%. If you're going to say 12%, you're going to take that out of the sales price. And then that's how we're coming up with our max bid or our offer price.
Yeah, and it really has nothing to do with what they owe on it. You know, if you can get someone out of a foreclosure and put some money in their pocket at the same time, I mean, that's awesome. So, you know, if it's not possible, like your max bid is 70 and they owe 72 with all their late fees and everything, and you can come up to 72 and everybody they just walk away clean, like that's what has to happen. You know, that's fine. But
yeah,
there's plenty of meat on the bone of these deals.
Yeah, buying a property, the cash that goes into the homeowner's pocket is not the only incentive, right? You've got it saves, obviously they don't have a foreclosure on the record, so they don't have it helps, makes them be able to start their life a little bit easier. It also means that they don't have to go through an eviction process whenever somebody buys it at the courthouse steps. A lot of people want to know the person that's buying their property, and try to negotiate that move out process.
Yeah, so true. I mean, you talk to these people sometimes and they've got so much stuff in those properties. They had no idea what to do with it and what they're going to do. Or they have, certain sentimental things that maybe your deal could be helping them get those sentimental things out of the property and helping with the movers on that because they're completely unconnected. So, yeah, but the goal is to not analysis paralysis, is to grab your list, grab a highlighter and a pen, or do it online and just pick 5 properties really quick and get out the door and start knocking on the door.
So Jack, what's one action item people can take today, right? So the auction's next week. If you just got the list, what are you going to do? Or if you're starting to evaluate early postings for the July auction?
Yeah, so 2 things. One is I would definitely quickly look, when I say check out weekly, I would look at the July postings right now. I would look at the August postings if there are any, or September postings right now, and I would put those first on your list. Now they might not sell the first time you knock on the door, so you want to keep these people on your list. A lot of times, Mr. Rice told me stories about how he'll leave his card. He's like, "Hey, I understand you don't want to sell today." But oftentimes people call me right before the auction. People will call him the Friday before the auction and say, "Okay, I need to do a deal." And they're like, "Well, shoot, and we'll do everything we can to try to stop it." So, yeah, the first action item I would do is look at the early postings. I would prioritize those first. Then, if you're going to be knocking on doors and trying to make deals happen, I would probably go to the canceleds of the current June list because you have more time to work with them. And then if you're buying on the courthouse steps, though, then just look at the Junes for now and make sure that you have a solid list of 10 to 15 properties for the June auction.
Awesome. So, guys, if you have any questions, make sure we're getting near the end of our webinar. If you have questions, make sure you put them in the comments below. We'll make sure we answer them now. It looks like we had one question on just asking about the route planning software that you were using. Can you what was the website for that?
We can put it in the chat, but this is routexl.com.
All right.
And I liked it because you can do up to 20 addresses. You can copy and paste them all in, and it's 100% free. There's other sites out there that are paid for. Google, I think you can do 10, but I haven't looked in a couple years at how many you can do at one time.
So routexl.com.
Yeah, there's one called like Route My Trip. There's a lot out there. This is just the one that I found to be the easiest. It's just the most basic. So
awesome. And then we had Tate ask just real briefly, like, can we go over the guidelines again? We want to say, just remember to take into account your acquisition costs, your construction costs, holding costs. So that includes everything from taxes, loan, interest, HOA dues, utilities and insurance, your closing costs, and then obviously the most important part for a real estate investor is going to be that profit that you want to make. So
yeah, and a lot of things depend on all this stuff. If you're using hard money and you're buying, you're probably paying the seller's closing costs if you're buying outside of the courthouse, and so you're probably going to put on at least 6%. So say you're buying a $100,000 house, it's probably going to cost you $106,000 to get that property. Yeah. And then when you go to sell it for say $200,000, you're paying realtors, you're paying all those other things. So you're probably looking at at least 8,000 or at least 8%. So about 16,000 and all that. Those can change depending on a lot of different factors. So know your numbers. And if you're worried, hey, this offer may be too thin, then just lower your offer, like make
The
yourself
worst
feel
they can say is
comfortable.
no, right?
Yeah, just lower it till you feel like, hey, I for sure can close on this. Remember, these people have a deadline. So if you're not going to close, if you're offering $85,000 on a $95,000 house because you want him to like you and you want to get the deal, but you don't close on the Monday before auction, like that's going to crush them. So even if you have to say like, hey, I can only offer you 65,000, and it really hurts and it stings for the first 30 minutes of that conversation, at least you can get the deal done at that price and you can move through closing and get the whole thing done. So
awesome. We had Shan ask us if she said, "Hey, I thought there was no auction in June." So the auctions have been smaller the last couple of months. Obviously with the foreclosure moratorium, that's a federally that's for federally backed mortgages. We've had smaller auctions. Counties are at least coming out now though and saying, "Hey, we're going to allow the auctions." We've got, like I said, we've got 200 or 300 postings for like our major counties. Like Dallas has 250 postings. So there is going to be an auction. The exciting part is this month we're seeing counties confirm that there are going to be tax auctions. So it looks like from just an operations standpoint, things are going kind of back to normal. But we expect that the foreclosure moratorium will expire by July or sometime in July, and we'll start seeing that increase in foreclosure postings from that backlog of inventory after that. We had Keith ask us, what CRM do we use to keep track of our prospects? And Keith, I am so glad you brought that up. I would be kicking myself if I got off here and I didn't talk about PropHawk. We've got a new website for PropHawk, and if you're an FLS member, you actually get access to it for free, and you can import all of your leads into prophawk.com actually automatically. So if you're a member, if you have a list, say you have the Bell County list and your Roddy's pre-foreclosure list, that is a free feature that you just go to prophawk.com. You log in with your same login, and then all your leads are there. We're actually going to be doing a webinar next week where we talk about just like how to track the leads and walking through that process. Again, I think Jack and I could both talk for hours about just CRMs and all the different ones we've used and how to track them. But if you go to prophawk.com, I'll put it in the comments below. And you can use your Roddy's login that way. So that's the CRM I use. You can also send postcards and voicemails to people through that. So let's see. We've got some other questions. Christina said, "Hey, do you ever recommend reaching out to a lender if the owner is non-responsive?" Jack, have you ever done that before the auction?
No, but neighbors.
Yeah.
Oh man, neighbors are a great source of getting an owner responsive. So you find a property that's clearly vacant, go knock on 3 or 4 or 5 doors, and man, I've heard some people get some great deals by going to neighbors.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's a good point. So really, sorry, you probably hear my 3-year-old screaming in the background. She doesn't
That's
know.
all right. I can talk.
One other thing I'd add on to that, Christina, is that really the lines are before the auction, the homeowner owns it, and the bank really can't do much about it. If it's vacant, then the bank's pre-auction can sometimes go in and work with it. So I'd say if you go to the property and you look in the windows and you see that it's vacant, then maybe you can talk to the bank. But again, until that foreclosure process is over and that it's actually been auctioned off at the courthouse steps and either gone to a third party or a lender, the bank's just not going to talk to you. There's too much liability for them to even talk to you. So like Jack said, trying to track down the homeowner, talking to neighbors, that's the best thing. And then after the auction, the bank owns it, even if it didn't sell to a third party. So, and then that's when you're going to try to get in touch with the REO department for a particular bank.
Man, I'm so glad you guys are on this thing and you guys are asking questions.
All right. We got another question. Does Padhawk have the foreclosure list also? Yes and no. So Padhawk has pre-foreclosure leads. It has REO leads, has vacant properties, divorce, bankruptcy, all sorts of stuff. It's just not going to have the pre-foreclosure lists that we offer on the Roddy's on Roddy's FLS. So Roddy's FLS is going to be for people that are trying to buy a foreclosure property before the auction or at the auction. A lot of times, the Padhawk will not have as many or with the same speed that the Roddy's pre-foreclosure list has.
Yeah, you can use Padhawk if you're new to this and you don't need every single listing. Padhawk's great. Padhawk's an awesome site. It has a lot of ways to search properties. They're going to be the easy to find ones that are on the internet, which some other companies do as well. And we've tested it. It has about 70 to 80% of the pre-foreclosures. Now, what we found is the 20% that it's missing, those are often the ones that everybody else is missing, but we have on foreclosure.info. And those 20% are the ones that can make you like $30,000 in profit. So you get a lot more leads for a lot less money on padhawk.com as far as like different types of leads, but you're going to be missing the ones that are hand mined from people, as opposed to
we've actually got teams going to the courthouse, and that's who are putting together the pre-foreclosure list, because time is of the essence, especially in Texas. If you're trying to buy foreclosures, I would recommend getting the pre-foreclosure list. You're going to get, that's the most accurate. It's going to be the fastest, and it's going to have the most number of properties on it. But in some other states like that are more judicial or have a longer foreclosure process, Padhawk is a great resource. So we have a lot of people in Texas that are saying, hey, they want to invest in Texas, but hey, I also want to invest in Colorado. Go to padhawk.com. Padhawk is a nationwide source for leads, so you can get foreclosure leads out there as well. I think we could do a whole webinar on Padhawk and how awesome it is. Actually, speaking of webinars and Padhawk, we have webinars on Padhawk in our YouTube and Facebook pages. So again, if you want to learn more about that, you can either go to Padhawk. You get a free 7-day trial just for signing up. You won't get charged until that 8th day. And you can test it out and see if that's what you like. Or you can go to our YouTube and Facebook pages to see us actually just going through the entire process of, just like what Jack did today. Aaron and I went through the process of, hey, I logged into Padhawk. Here's my leads. Here's how I market to those leads, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Padhawk's a great tool. Now, Padhawk, I'll say one more thing about Padhawk is you're searching for problems. Okay. So, and this was really explained to me well by Burton, who does a lot of this. So let's say maybe a foreclosure for somebody the last couple of months was not a problem because they got a forbearance. And for them, they're like, hey, I'm here. Evictions are slowed down or stopped, so I'm not going anywhere for a while. Maybe that's not the lead you're going after right now. So Padhawk you can search for. He showed me. Now let's look for all non-owner occupied homes that are occupied, meaning that they're rented, where the owner lives out of state, and then even put another caveat, and the owner has a mortgage, and it filtered like all these people. I was like, well, these are the people that are sweating bullets right now, right? Because they're like worried that these people are going to stop paying, and they've got this mortgage to take care of. And you can mail all those people. Maybe that would be a good place to go right now. He also showed me how you can search in there for, let's say they have 2 or 3 liens on the property, and they live out of state, and they have a renter in the property. Now you're looking at somebody who may really want to sell this house for a discount. Oh, and they have equity. You can also look that up too. So.
Yeah, there's probably 30 different search options there. So really, if you're trying to get a lot of leads for kind of just a random, like not a random filter, but a very unique filter, Padhawk's can be a great way, because if you don't get enough leads for, let's say, the city, then you can say, okay, never mind, I want to do the county or the state, or even draw an area on a map. So, but I just encourage you, if you have questions about Padhawk or you're interested in it, either call us or chat with us, or go to padhawk.com and get that free.
Just try it. It's free.
Yeah, it's free. It looks like that's all the questions we have. Jack, anything else?
No, this was a 30-minute webinar on how to find the best properties on your list. And man, yeah, we'll do another one that's shorter.
Looks like everybody stuck with us the entire time. We really appreciate your time, everybody. Again, we're here to help you. We want to add value to your a real estate investing business and help you succeed. So please reach out to if you have questions, if you have other things you want us to talk about in the future. And then I'll say one more time, go to roddysummit.com. I'm super pumped about that training event. It's going to be free. I think we've never done anything like this before. We're bringing people in from all over the country. We've got David Green from Bigger Pockets going to be there. David Osborne from Magnify Capital is going to be there. So a lot of really awesome people that know a lot more than we do about this. So we're excited for them to join us, and we think it's going to add a lot of value. So again, roddysummit.com. And I think I'll close it out unless you have anything else, Jack.
My email is jack@flsonline.com. Please email me if you have questions, if you want the abbreviation lists that we have. And also, if you were unclear about anything on this webinar, I'd be happy to jump on another one with you or a quick Zoom call and show you.
All right. And then one last thing is just a shameless plug to get our YouTube and Facebook algorithms going. If you can give us a like or a subscribe on both of those channels, that would help us out a lot, guys. So I think that's it. And just remember, don't pay retail for real estate, guys.
Okay.